I mean, we would go to his concerts, like, when I was, like, 6 or 7. I remember, and they were, like, awesome, but I didn't really notice all, like, the thousands of people that were there. I just saw him, like, singing. I'm like, oh my God, he's amazing.
Whispers of doubt have haunted Paris Jackson since childhood, her striking features fueling a global mystery. Is she truly Michael Jackson's daughter, from tabloid bombshells to shadowy DNA leaks? The saga of her paternity has captivated and divided the world. Debbie Rowe's shocking claims, Mark Lester's bold assertions, and relentless public scrutiny have kept Paris in a storm of speculation. Yet, in a rare moment of defiance, Paris speaks her truth, confronting decades of rumors head-on. What secrets lie behind her unwavering stance? Dive into a tale of identity, love, and resilience that promises to unravel a celebrity enigma like no other. The whispers begin, a gaze of suspicion on Jackson's children. The online explosion was merely the latest eruption in a saga that began almost the moment Michael Jackson introduced his children to the world. The first seeds of doubt weren't sown by DNA kits, but by something far more visible, their appearance. It started not with a bang, but a whisper, a collective murmur of disbelief that rippled through the public consciousness when the king of pop, an icon known globally for his distinctive features and African-American heritage, first presented his children, Prince, Paris, and later Biggie, then known as Blanket. The world's gaze was intense. It was a gaze, however, tinged not just with admiration for the music royalty, but with a burgeoning, inconfortable suspicion. The central question, often unspoken, but heavily implied in countless tabloid headlines and hushed conversations, was stark. Were these fair-skinned, light-eyed children truly the biological offspring of Michael Jackson? While all three children faced this scrutiny, Paris Jackson, with her strikingly bright blue eyes, pale complexion, and light brown hair, became the undeniable epicenter of this visual interrogation. She looked, to many, so different from the Michael Jackson fans had known and idolized for decades. Even considering the changes in his own appearance over the years, the contrast was jarring for some, and it fueled a relentless curiosity almost overnight. Young Paris became the unwilling face of a burgeoning celebrity mystery. The nascent power of the internet and digital photo sharing fanned these flames into a wildfire. People meticulously shared her childhood photographs, zooming in on facial features, comparing skin tones, and analyzing every minute detail as if they were forensic experts attempting to solve a complex puzzle. Was there a resemblance to a younger Michael? Before his skin condition vitiligo became widely known and before his numerous cosmetic surgeries? Or did she, as others adamantly argued, bear no resemblance to him at all? The debate was fervent and, for a child, unimaginably invasive. Then, in the raw aftermath of Michael Jackson's sudden and tragic death in June 2009, the whispers escalated dramatically. On June 30, 2009, mere days after the world lost its king of pop, the entertainment news outlet TMZ dropped what can only be described as a bombshell report. Citing multiple unnamed sources, TMZ claimed that Michael Jackson was not the biological father of his two eldest children, Prince and Paris. The report asserted that while Debbie Rowe was their birth mother, Michael Jackson's sperm had not been used in their conception. The article offered no named sources, no on-the-record confirmations, no tangible proof beyond its anonymous assertions. But in the hypercharged atmosphere following Jackson's death, it didn't need to. The damage was done. That single story, rapidly disseminated across global media, acted as an accelerant, igniting the already smoldering embers of years of paternity speculation. The children's physical appearance, once a subject of curious murmurs, was now widely presented as evidence to support these claims. Features, or the perceived absence of certain expected features, were openly discussed and dissected. What had been a deeply personal and sensitive family matter was thrust irrevocably into the harsh arena of public discussion. becoming an open secret that everyone felt entitled to debate. The questions and doubts, now legitimized by a major media report, hung heavy in the air, a painful legacy for children already grieving their father. The public debate was fierce, a deeply personal wound for a young girl caught in the crosshairs. And just when the storm of speculation and media frenzy seemed to have reached an unbearable peak, the woman at the very center of the children's birth, Debbie Rowe, prepared to step forward and speak, her words poised to send fresh shockwaves across the globe.
Just tell me what happened. Can you remember how?
Of course. He came out with this really big head. As soon as I saw his head, I thought of my grandfather and my brother Randy, because his head was shaped just like theirs. And I said, oh my God.
Debbie Rowe's bombshell. A mother's words shake the world. The media firestorm and public debate, fueled by TMZ's unsourced claims, left a gaping wound in the narrative of the Jackson family. But the whispers were about to turn into a roar as Debbie Rowe, Michael's ex-wife and the mother of his two eldest children, Prince and Paris, finally broke her silence with words that would send shockwaves across the globe. I was just the vessel. It wasn't Michael's sperm. The admission? Reportedly made by Debbie Rowe in a bombshell interview with the British tabloid News of the World in July 2009, just weeks after Michael Jackson's death, didn't just fan the flames of speculation. It was a veritable explosion. Debbie Rowe, a name suddenly thrust into the global spotlight, had a history intertwined with Jackson's. She was a dermatology nurse working in the Beverly Hills office of Dr. Arnold Klein, Michael Jackson's longtime dermatologist, where the singer was a frequent patient. It was there, amidst medical treatments, that an unlikely connection formed. Rowe married the pop superstar in Sydney, Australia, in November 1996, shortly after his very public divorce from Lisa Marie Presley. At the time, their union, however unconventional, was presented by some as a heartfelt, if private, affair, particularly given Jackson's expressed desire for children. Rowe's 2009 interview, however, brutally shattered any lingering illusions of a fairy tale romance or even a conventional partnership. She reportedly described their marriage as a sham, a business-like arrangement designed for one primary purpose: to provide Michael Jackson with children. The quote about the sperm, stark and unambiguous, carried an enormous implication. It seemingly confirmed the deepest, darkest suspicions that had been whispered in online forums and tabloid pages for years, that the children Michael Jackson was raising as his own, particularly his eldest son, Prince, and daughter, Paris, might not have been biologically his in the paternal sense. For an 11-year-old Paris Jackson, already reeling from the devastating loss of her father, the impact of these public pronouncements was unimaginable. Almost instantaneously, she was thrust from the insulated world of Neverland into the harsh, unforgiving glare of a global controversy. The media went into an absolute overdrive. Talk shows, gossip websites, and tabloids worldwide seized upon Rowe's statements, tearing them apart, analyzing every syllable. Paris's appearance was again subjected to intense, minute scrutiny. Was her bright blue eye color genetically possible if Michael Jackson, a black man, was her biological father? Did her pale skin and light, straight hair definitively prove she was the product of an anonymous sperm donor? As Rowe's words now strongly suggested, in the same explosive interview, Rowe reportedly offered further almost chillingly candid details about how the arrangement came to be. She claimed she had offered to carry Michael's children because she felt sorry for him. He was lonely, she allegedly said, and he desperately wanted to start a family. Then came another blunt admission: I got paid for it. She further added a statement that underscored the transactional nature of the arrangement and her detachment. And I've moved on. I know I will never see my children again. A sentiment perhaps reflecting past custody agreements or her emotional state at the time. To the public, these revelations painted a cold, almost calculated picture of the children's origins. In the eyes of many, this interview reframed Michael Jackson, making him more of a symbolic or adoptive father figure than a biological one for his two eldest friends. While some admired his profound desire for fatherhood and his commitment to raising the children regardless of genetics, others used Rowe's claims to cast further doubt on the authenticity of his meticulously crafted family life. Debbie Rowe's stunning admissions ripped through the carefully constructed facade of Michael Jackson's family life, leaving more questions than answers. And into this void of uncertainty, other figures began to emerge from the shadows, each with a startling claim to Jackson's legacy and, potentially, his children. A line of hopefuls, the search for a father figure. Debbie Rowe's stunning admissions ripped through the carefully constructed facade of Michael Jackson's family life, leaving more questions than answers. And into this void of uncertainty, other figures began to emerge from the shadows, each with a startling claim to Jackson's legacy and, potentially, his children. Just when the world thought the paternity saga couldn't get any stranger, a former child star, known for his innocent face in a beloved 1968 classic musical, stepped dramatically into the ring. Mark Lester, who had famously played Oliver Twist.
About 10 days ago, and he was bright, bubbly, really excited about coming to London. We had plans. I'm Michael's godfather, well, I'm godfather to his children, he's the godfather of my kids, and whenever Michael comes to the UK, and we've been to the States.
Decades removed from his cinematic heyday, Lester resurfaced in the media glare in August 2009, not to discuss his past career, but to deliver a shocking bombshell. He claimed that he might be the biological father of Michael Jackson's two eldest children, Paris and Prince. Lester alleged a close, long-standing friendship with Jackson, one that involved family visits, shared vacations, and deep personal conversations. He stated that around the time Debbie Rowe became pregnant, Jackson had approached him with an unusual and deeply personal request, a sperm donation. Wanting to help his friend achieve his dream of fatherhood, Lester said he agreed. "There's a good chance I'm their dad," he boldly declared in interviews, even offering to undergo DNA testing to prove his sensational claim. For a brief, surreal moment, the public was captivated. Headlines blared the news. Speculation surged, and the notion of a British former child actor being the father of the King of Pop's children was just bizarre enough to seize the imagination of millions. But the story soon took a peculiar twist. Not long after his initial, confident assertions, Mark Lester began to subtly walk back his claims, or at least temper them. He suggested that perhaps he had exaggerated certain aspects or maybe even misremembered the precise details. Perhaps he hadn't been the donor after all. Maybe it was someone else. Someone from Michael's closely guarded inner circle. Then, in a move that only further convoluted the narrative, he publicly mused. Perhaps it was Dr. H. Arnold Klein. Dr. Arnold Klein, the celebrated Beverly Hills dermatologist, was certainly no stranger to the Jackson saga or to controversy. He had been one of Michael Jackson's closest confidants for years. And Debbie Rowe, of course, had worked in his clinic. With Rowe carrying Jackson's children, whispers inevitably began to swirl that Dr. Klein might have played more than just a professional medical role in the story. The theory seemed plausible to some. Jackson was famously private and secretive, and Dr. T. Klein possessed the access, the opportunity, and potentially the motive to assist his friend in such a personal endeavor.
All I can tell you is, best of my knowledge, I'm not the father of these children. I don't want to feed any of this insanity that's going around.
When questioned directly in a July 2009 interview on ABC's Good Morning America whether he was the children's biological father, Dr. Klein gave a response that only deepened the mystery. To the best of my knowledge, he stated carefully, "I am not the father of these children." The phrasing was curious, almost evasive, and many observers interpreted it as a hint that there might indeed be more to the story than he was letting on. he neither confirmed nor definitively denied in a way that would quell the speculation. Years later, in January 2015, Dr. Klein himself reignited the speculation by posting a side-by-side image of a younger version of himself and Prince Jackson on his Facebook page, accompanied by a single, enigmatic caption, that one word, alongside the visual comparison, was enough to send the internet into another frenzy. Physical similarities between Klein and Prince's high cheekbones, eye shape, skin tone became the basis for renewed claims and endless online discussions. Through all these swirling claims and counterclaims, Michael Jackson himself, prior to his death, had maintained a consistent narrative. In the controversial 2003 Martin Bashir documentary, Living with Michael Jackson, he stated plainly that his youngest son, BG, then known to the public as Blanket, had been born via a surrogate mother using Jackson's own sperm cells. He strongly implied this was true for all three of his children. His statement seemed intended to draw a definitive line in the sand. But for many, given the layers of secrecy and the subsequent claims from others, it only raised more questions. Why the intense privacy? Why the ambiguity surrounding donors and surrogates if the story was straightforward? Why did so many people around Jackson feel emboldened to make such conflicting public claims after his death? The list of maybe fathers was growing, and each new name, each fresh wave of speculation, was another painful stab for a young Paris Jackson who was desperately trying to find her own voice and her own sense of identity amidst the relentless, confusing Ks. With Michael Jackson's own assertions clouded by secrecy and a growing list of men laying tentative claim to his children, the public's gaze intensified, turning from tabloid headlines to amateur genetic sleuthing. For Paris and Prince, this scrutiny wasn't just an invasion of privacy, it was an attack on their very identities, as every physical feature became fodder for a relentless sign and ever, often cruel, public debate, the relentless gaze, fan theories, and the genetic maze. With Michael Jackson's own assertions clouded by secrecy and a growing list of men laying tentative claim to his children, the public's gaze intensified, turning from tabloid headlines to amateur genetic sleuthing. For Paris and Prince, this scrutiny wasn't just an invasion of privacy, it was an attack on their very identities, as every physical feature became fodder for a relentless, often cruel, public debate. While alleged fathers came and went, one constant remained: the public's relentless, almost obsessive fixation on Paris Jackson's appearance, and by extension, that of her brothers. For Paris, these whispers were never mere tabloid chatter. They struck at the very core of her identity. Every new headline, every speculative article, every pixelated photo comparison served as a painful reminder that much of the world didn't see her as her own person, but as a living puzzle to be solved. She was dissected, analyzed, and reduced to a collection of genetic traits to be argued over. Some critics, armed with nothing more than photographs, claimed she bore a striking resemblance to Mark Lester's daughters, fueling his claims further. Prince Jackson, too, faced constant, unnerving scrutiny. His features, his nose, his jawline, his smile were endlessly compared to those of Dr. Arnold Klein, Michael Jackson himself, or other alleged donors. The public, armed with internet search engines and photo editing software, appointed themselves amateur genealogists. The fan theories sometimes veered into the truly bizarre. In a particularly strange twist, some began comparing Paris to Lisa Marie Presley, Michael's first wife. Despite the fact that Lisa Marie was unequivocally not her biological mother, nor involved in her conception, the comparisons didn't stop there. Observers then started drawing parallels between Paris and Lisa Marie's own daughter, actress Riley Keough. These theories gained traction not because of any shred of evidence, but simply because they added another layer of intrigue to an already tangled and sensationalized story. Then came even stranger claims. Whispers swirled that actor Macaulay Culkin, the child star of Home Alone, and a close friend of Michael Jackson who also served as Paris's godfather, might somehow be her biological father. This theory gained momentum due to his long-standing friendship with Michael and his noted closeness to the Jackson children, particularly Paris. But like so many of the wild speculations, it was based on little more than proximity and vivid imagination, not on any verifiable fact. Still, for a public seemingly raised on a diet of tabloid headlines and perpetually hungry for controversy, that distinction hardly seemed to matter. Amid this cacophony of theories, one particularly cruel and persistent comment echoed through internet forums and social media comment sections: "She doesn't look black enough to be Michael's child." It was a claim that stung not just for its blatant ignorance of genetic complexities, but for how frequently and casually it was repeated, often by individuals with little to no understanding of how physical traits are inherited, particularly in mixed-race children. Thankfully, scientists, geneticists, and informed supporters of Paris were quick to push back against this reductive and often racially charged assertion. Experts patiently explained that the inheritance of physical traits is not a simple, predictable equation. There is no universal look for a biracial or multiracial person. One geneticist might state, for instance, a child of a black and a white parent can inherit any combination of features from either or both. Some children may appear lighter-skinned with more traditionally Eurocentric traits, while others may exhibit more traditionally black features, and many will fall somewhere in between. It all depends on the specific genetic markers passed down from each parent and how those genes are expressed. DNA doesn't care about your assumptions or societal boxes. Yet, despite the clarity of science and the heartfelt, if often unspoken, pain of the Jackson children, the speculation didn't stop. No amount of reasoned explanation could fully silence the doubters or quench the public's thirst for this particular mystery. And then, a new, seemingly innocuous acting role for Paris on screen would, with an ironic twist of fate, throw fresh gasoline on the still smoldering embers of this relentless rumor. Despite scientific explanations and heartfelt pleas for privacy, the relentless speculation surrounding Paris Jackson's paternity showed no signs of abating. Then, in 2023, a role in a popular television series and a subsequent shadowy online development would catapult the rumors from internet forums into a global firestorm of conspiracy and alleged proof. The swarm effect and leaked files. Rumors resurface with a vengeance. Despite scientific explanations and heartfelt pleas for privacy, the relentless speculation surrounding Paris Jackson's paternity showed no signs of abating. Then, in 2023, a role in a popular television series and a subsequent shadowy online development would catapult the rumors from internet forums into a global firestorm of conspiracy and alleged proof. In March 2023, Paris Jackson appeared in the critically acclaimed Amazon Prime Video horror thriller series Swarm. While her performance as a stripper named Haley was noted, it wasn't her acting prowess alone that went viral. Instead, it was a single, seemingly innocuous line delivered by her character that caught everyone off guard, sending the internet into a collective gasp. In one episode, Haley casually remarks to another character, "Yeah, my dad's half black. You know, that's why my stage name is Halsey." The irony, for viewers aware of Paris's own life, was almost too potent to ignore. Instantly, the comment struck a chord that resonated far beyond the fictional world of the show. Here was Paris Jackson, the daughter of Michael Jackson, a globally recognized black man, yet herself possessing a white passing appearance that had fueled years of intense public speculation about whether Michael was indeed her biological father. So, when her character Haley mentioned having a half-black father as the reasoning behind her stage name, Halsey, people couldn't help but connect it to the persistent, deeply personal rumors that had shadowed Paris for most of her life. The line felt oddly almost uncomfortably self-referential. Was it an inside joke? A subtle, knowing acknowledgement of the controversy that had defined so much of her public identity? Or merely an uncomfortable, coincidental piece of dialogue? Online forums and social media platforms erupted with reactions. Some called it ironic. Others saw it as a clever, perhaps even defiant, nod to her real-life circumstances. Many questioned whether the line was included intentionally by the show's creators to provoke conversation, or if it was just a strange fluke. Regardless of intent, the moment reignited the old, fiery debate with a new intensity, and not long after, Swarm and its talked-about line captured public attention, something far more explosive surfaced, making the speculation even louder and more widespread. In the weeks following the premiere of Swarm, the internet found itself gripped by yet another Paris Jackson controversy, one that spiraled far beyond mere entertainment, gossip, and plunged into the murky depths of identity, celebrity obsession, and online conspiracy theories. A story began to circulate, its origins vague, but its impact dramatic. A group of anonymous geneticists had allegedly secretly obtained a sample of Paris Jackson's DNA. The details of how they supposedly acquired such a personal sample remained elusive and unverified, shrouded in a cloak of digital anonymity. Their purported claim, however, was stark and unambiguous. Paris Jackson shared no detectable genetic connection to Michael Jackson. This group, or individuals claiming to represent them, then reportedly released what they described as conclusive evidence, documents that were quickly leaked and began to circulate widely across various online platforms. These unsubstantiated DNA files fueled speculation at a breakneck speed. Hashtags exploded. Public curiosity, always simmering beneath the surface, turned into a full-blown frenzy. Yet, the world remained, as ever on this topic, deeply divided. For every person who readily accepted the story as a long-awaited confirmation of their suspicions, there were just as many who rejected it outright as a malicious fabrication or an invasive hoax. The rumors, it seemed, simply wouldn't die. What made this particular moment different was the sheer scale and speed of its viral spread. What had once been speculative murmurs, confined to dedicated fan forums or tabloid articles, had now morphed into a viral obsession, amplified by the instantaneous nature of social media. And while reputable news outlets largely refrained from running the story, labeling the alleged DNA leak as unsubstantiated, invasive, and lacking credible sourcing, the rumor had already become a cultural flashpoint. In the eye of this digital storm, once again, stood Paris Jackson. The pressure was undeniable, the noise deafening. She knew, with a growing certainty, that she couldn't remain silent any longer. The world, it seemed, was demanding answers. And whether she provided them or not, her silence would only continue to be filled by other people's voices, shaping her narrative without her consent. It was time to speak for herself, trapped in a renewed whirlwind of speculation and the shadow of supposedly leaked DNA evidence. Paris Jackson faced an unbearable pressure. The world's eyes were on her, demanding an answer to a question that had defined much of her life. The time for silence was over. The stage was set for her most profound revelation yet. Paris speaks her truth, the definitive answer. Trapped in a renewed whirlwind of speculation and the shadow of supposedly leaked DNA evidence, Paris Jackson faced an unbearable pressure. The world's eyes were on her, demanding an answer to a question that had defined much of her life. The time for silence was over. The stage was set for her most profound revelation yet. After years of maintaining a dignified quiet while living under the relentless scrutiny of the public eye, Paris Jackson finally chose her moment to break that silence. Not with anger, but with a calm resolve that spoke volumes. "My real father is Michael Jackson." With those 6 powerful words, delivered with unwavering conviction in a rare and deeply personal interview, Paris Jackson aimed to silence decades of insidious doubt and rampant speculation. The setting was intimate, a quiet, warmly lit studio. Across from her sat a seasoned interviewer, yet the weight of the moment was palpable. For millions were metaphorically, if not literally, watching around the world, hanging on her every word. Known for fiercely guarding her private life against the often brutal sensationalism of the media, Paris had long been the subject of rumors, invasive doute, and the wildest of speculations. Now, for the first time in such a direct and comprehensive manner concerning these specific recent escalations, she was setting the record straight, on her own terms. When the inevitable question arose about the recent so-called DNA leaks that had sent the internet into a frenzy, Paris didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. Her response came with a quiet strength, one seemingly forged in the crucible of years spent navigating internal battles and public misperceptions. Those were fake, she stated plainly, her voice clear and powerful. Fabricated, she continued, by people who have made it their mission to undermine me and my family since I was a child. Her eyes, steady and direct, conveyed both the pain of this long-standing assault and an unyielding defiance. These so-called leaks weren't based on facts or science. They were based on a desire to cause chaos, to stir controversy, and to hurt. Who these people were, and their precise motivations beyond a general desire to sow discord, remained an unsettling question mark, implicitly raised by her firm denouncement. She leaned in slightly, emphasizing her next point with undeniable force. I've seen the so-called documents. I've personally undergone genetic testing, and I know the truth. Her personal confirmation was unequivocal. I want the world to hear that directly from me, not from a magazine headline, not from an anonymous internet source, but from my own mouth. The rumors are false, and they always have been. Then, her tone softened, not with hesitation, but with a profound sense of pride and love. Michael Jackson was my father, she reiterated, the words now imbued with a deep, emotional resonance. He raised me. He loved me with every part of his heart, and I felt that love every single day of my life. He was gentle, kind, protective, and endlessly supportive. Everything I am, she declared, a hint of a smile touching her lips. My strength, my compassion, my creativity comes from him. I feel every part of my childhood will always influence how I am today, whether it's like experiences or like all of the music we listen to, because I know you. You kind of got to know my father a little bit, so I'm sure you knew that he loved classical music and jazz. Paris went on to articulate that the relentless speculation about her paternity wasn't just personally hurtful, it was profoundly disrespectful to the memory of the man who had given her everything. People talk about DNA like it's the only thing that defines a parent, she mused, challenging the reductive nature of the public debate. But love, commitment, showing up every single day, that's what makes a father. Michael was my dad in every sense of the word, and he didn't deserve to have his legacy reduced to a rumor. She took a visible breath before delivering her final dotally. Powerful assertion, a vow to protect his memory and her truth. So, no, he wasn't just the king of pop. He was a king to me because of how he loved us. And that's the truth. A truth I will defend for the rest of my life. Paris Jackson had spoken her truth, drawing a definitive line in the sand. But in a world fueled by instant opinions and entrenched beliefs, her words became not an endpoint, but a catalyst for a new, intense phase of public debate, leaving her legacy and her future hanging in a delicate balance, a world divided, a future forged, Paris Jackson's unfolding legacy. Paris Jackson had spoken her truth, drawing a definitive line in the sand. But in a world fueled by instant opinions and entrenched beliefs, her words became not an endpoint, but a catalyst for a new, intense phase of public debate, leaving her legacy and her future hanging in a delicate balance. Her powerful declaration echoed around the globe. Yet, instead of unified acceptance, it cleaved public opinion sharply. In two, the response was swift, deeply emotional, and perhaps, predictably, profoundly divided. For many, her candid statements represented a moment of empowerment, a long overdue confrontation with years of damaging speculation and invasive scrutiny. Supporters wasted no time in expressing their solidarity and admiration across social media platforms like X. One commenter might have captured the sentiment of many by writing, "Paris handled this entire situation with such remarkable grace and maturity. She has every right to define who her real father is." Another common refrain emphasized a broader understanding of family. People forget that family isn't always about biology. It's about love, loyalty, and the life you build together. Michael Jackson was always her dad, in every way that counts. Many praised her courage, noting how incredibly difficult it must have been to speak out so forcefully against years of public doubt. He raised her, protected her, and loved her deeply. Another supporter might have posted, "DNA doesn't define that bond, and it never will." However, not everyone was convinced. The backlash arrived almost as swiftly as the support, and with it came a familiar wave of skepticism and criticism, echoing the very doubts Paris had sought to dispel. This feels like nothing more than a PR stunt. One critical voice might have commented online, "The timing is too convenient," especially considering how the DNA leak story started trending again. She's just trying to take back control of the narrative. Others questioned why it had taken her so long to make such a definitive public statement if the rumors were, as she asserted, entirely false. If the rumors were really untrue all this time, why wait years to speak out? Another user might have queried. Some demanded hard proof, claiming that her words, however heartfelt and sincere, weren't enough to definitively settle the debate that had raged for so long. The digital divide only grew wider, and Paris once again found herself at the epicenter of a cultural war over truth, identity, and the enduring legacy of her famous father. Still, amidst this divided opinion, Paris Jackson stands at a unique and transformative crossroads. The dust from her powerful interview has yet to fully settle, but even amid the lingering questions and divergent viewpoints, one thing is unmistakably clear: she is moving forward, forging her own path. Far from being overshadowed or derailed by the perennial headlines, her creative work continues to flourish in new and exciting ways. Her music, Once, perhaps a Keter pursuit, is now gaining significant traction, with listeners tuning in not just out of curiosity, but because her sound is raw, resonant, and deeply authentic. Her lyrics often speak to themes of pain, resilience, identity, and love, emotions and experiences she knows with an intimate, hard-won understanding. Simultaneously, her acting career is evolving in meaningful directions. Paris is no longer content to take on roles that simply place her famous face in front of a camera. She is actively seeking characters that challenge her, that speak to who she is becoming as an artist and as a woman, allowing her to carve out her own distinct legacy. And while her surname will always be instantly recognizable, an echo of a global icon, it now carries more than just a question mark. It carries her own voice, her own truth. She appears to be done trying to win over the legions of skeptics or feel the need to defend every choice or validate every word. Instead, she is choosing to focus on what truly matters, telling her story, her way. Behind the scenes, reports suggest she is working on a deeply personal memoir, one that promises to peel back the many layers of her extraordinary life, beyond the sensational headlines, beyond the colossal family name, and into the heart of a young woman who has spent much of her existence searching for peace and understanding. Paris Jackson is no longer running from the shadows of the past. She is standing firmly in the light of her own truth. And while some may continue to question her, she has already delivered her answer to the world. Her journey underscores a complex, often arduous battle for identity waged in the relentless glare of the public eye, a testament to resilience in the face of a world that often demands more than any one person can possibly give. The story of her truth, and how she continues to define it, powerfully continues to unfold. Paris Jackson's journey through a maelstrom of rumors and revelations showcases her resilience against relentless scrutiny. Her bold declaration, "My real father is Michael Jackson," redefines her narrative, emphasizing love over DNA. Yet, the world remains divided, with speculation still swirling. As Paris forges her path in music and acting, her story of identity and strength continues to unfold. Want to explore more celebrity mysteries and inspiring tales? Subscribe to our channel for exclusive insights, untold stories, and updates on Paris's evolving legacy. Join our community, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for more captivating videos that dive deep into the lives of icons.